First, I wanted to ask you, it's been 20 years since Schotten Totten was released. Why go back to this game so many years after?
Well, the game has been successively on the market with many different publishers. And so for me, it's important that the game stands the test of time. And after 20 years, I think that has proven. And so the second point then was I want to see the game, the original game, with a strong publisher like IELLO. And so then I thought if I make a sequel or a sister game to it, then it has the opportunity to meet lots of people because they know the game over 20 years and because there's a publisher who can bring it to the world.
Yeah, so it's kind of like when you create, for example, such a big book, for example, and then you come back to it years after, and that the book and the game has grown with its public in a way.
Yeah. So the situation is different. I mean, if you do a game and then do expansions and extend the game itself, then it needs to follow up very quickly so that you keep the drive. But this one is an independent game, and so you don't need to know the first game. It's a sister game. It stands by itself. And some people will like the original game better, and some people hopefully will like the other game better.
That is true. The main difference between those two games is that the latter is actually asymmetrical. So was it something that you absolutely wanted for this new game when you created it?
No, I'm not setting myself targets that I have to come out somewhere specifically. What I'm trying to do is create something new. I didn't want to do more of the same, but I didn't know what the difference was. So I experimented with lots of different things. And the nice theme of saying now we are not on the countryside as in Schotten Totten 1, but we are in a city, and then automatically it came, well, what do we do in the city? We have two different roles. And that then gave the inspiration to lots of different ways of mechanics. So the one has the oil cauldron and can do something from inside, and the other one can anytime withdraw and say, oh, I don't have to attack, whereas the other one is enclosed in the city. So that sparked a lot of different possibilities, and therefore the game now is very different, the second game, than the first one. And that's exactly what I wanted, without losing the spirit of fighting over different aspects, different portions of the layout, and trying to be the winners there. Again, in Schotten Totten 2, it changes because when you have damaged the wall, you turn it over, and suddenly there are new requirements. So it is much more in the flux, the new game now.
And was it difficult to find a balance between the attacker role and the defender role?
Well, yes and no. When we design a new game, when I design a new game, I have a big testing group around me. And so, of course, the game gets played a lot of times before it goes to the publisher. And so in a natural way, within this play, we then balanced the game and looked at, I mean, there are easy ways to balance it with the cauldrons with different abilities. And so we gave it our best shot. Of course, it's never perfect. And so people can argue forever which one is the stronger side, but that's part of the fun. But I hope it is reasonably balanced from the many tests.
Yeah, so you have a big team around you that helps you go through the project and all.
There are many playtesters because in a way there is analytical work in designing games, but then you have to live and experience the fun and the excitement and the thrill of the game, and that can only be done by playing. And so yes, if we don't have Corona, then we play a lot and make it perfect so that you know, when we put the game to the publisher and the publisher puts the game into the little box, then we sell it. And when the consumer, the player, opens the box, they expect the entertainment to come out. So I put entertainment in the boxes, but I'm not there when it happens. So I need to make the testing before that and make sure that it is very robust and works for many different approaches.
Yeah, absolutely. And what do you prefer when you play tasted it, when you created it? What would you prefer? Do you prefer to attack or to defend?
I can't say, because this is two different experiences, and the claustrophobic kind of experience I'm in there, I can't take my cards back, it fills up all more and I have less and less space, is very nice. But then you want to experience the other side and say, okay, and now I have all the freedom there, but I have only a limited number of cards. And if I can't get it done with these cards, then the other one just sits there and laughs at me and I haven't won the game. Yes, and he wins the game, or she wins the game.
It's
And
true.
so I think that's the pleasure of it. I think if I had come to the conclusion that one side is the one I always prefer, I would not have published the game, because then the game is broken if it's not good for both sides.
Absolutely, it's true. And do you have a secret or secret weapon to win a game of Schotten Totten 2?
No, I don't. You see, I'm not a person who tries to become the chess world champion or the world champion in any game. I'm trying to keep a very broad look at many different games and experience them. And so I'm usually not the best player of my game. I want to give people lots of opportunities. The best advice I can give is just play the game many times and you will learn. And that's the fun of it. If I could give you a recipe and say, always play like this, the game is broken, the game is no more fun.
Yes.
So that's something to avoid, exactly, yes.
Yeah, that's a good question. And then you can try and encourage players to try and be better than you in a way at your own game.
Yes, absolutely.
So you revisited this game, which, as we said, was released 20 years ago. Is there any other of your classic games that you'd like to come back to?
Yes, and of course I have gone back to some of the classic games because I thought it's nice to make families out of these games. They strengthen each other, and if people like playing the game, they like to see something new, and there's an offer to do something new. I think I would, out of the top of my head, I would love to go back to Kingdoms. Kingdoms is a very nice principle, originally published by Hans im Glück many years ago. But Kingdoms, at the moment, the challenge is it's off the market. So I first of all need to find a publisher to publish the original game. And once we have a strong publisher and a strong presence in the market again, then I would bring a second game potentially. So at the moment, it's less going back to the classic, the ones which have been established over many years. I think where my time at the moment goes, if with respect to expansions or if with respect to revisiting existing games, then it's much more the El Dorado, and also with My City, which is a new game, but which starts to be very successful.
Can you tell us an anecdote about Schotten Totten 1 or Schotten Totten 2?
There isn't really an anecdote. I mean, if I remember correctly, Schotten Totten 1, so the original game, was actually originally, I invented this in 1995, so 25 years ago, and it was originally published in a UK magazine.
Okay.
And it was to be played with standard cards, yes, because when you have it in magazine, you can't give the materials. And it was called the fifth column, which essentially means you have kind of a fight, battle lines against each other, but the fifth column is always one which is kind of going over to the other side, so you have to be careful about this. And so that was 95, and then a friend of mine, Dan Glimne from Sweden, wrote a book about games, and so he published it in Swedish the year afterwards in the book, and it was only then 3 or 4 years later that the new theme came up, so the Schotten Totten theme, which of course I derived from Hotten Totten, which in German at least means the African people, jump all the time with the all guys, I believe. And so I thought, but if I put it into Scotland and then call them Schotten Totten, so then I thought that would be funny. And the publisher, Schmidt, liked it. And so we saw the first card game version, and then there were many more versions. So games find their ways into the world in many, many different possibilities, and that was one.
It comes from kind of very far, I mean, if I can say that, like it has a long history to it.
Yes.
That's and it must be quite special for you to come back to it, and it's since it has its history in a book, and then it was published, and then it was republished, and then there is kind of its little brother coming now, And do you think there will be a Schotten Totten 3 at some point?
I don't know. At the moment, you see, we had Schotten Totten 1 for a long time. Now we have Schotten Totten 2. I don't think I want to flood the market and people get confused what's going on now. So I think Schotten Totten 2 will stand there for quite a long time. And maybe in the future I do a cooperative game, or which is strange, or maybe I do a multiplayer game, but there's nothing in the pipeline, and certainly not for the next years, because these two games make a nice family, and sometimes staying with a small family is better than having a flood and then people don't know what to do, and you compete with your own product, and that's also not.
It's true. So we have been talking about your process of how you did this game and how you liked it and all. But I was wondering, in your spare time, when you're not playing games or creating games, what do you enjoy doing?
The business is a very big part of my life, but it's unfortunately not only sitting there and thinking and dreaming about new games and new ideas. There is a business to run. And the business means with many games being published every year, there are many contracts to be done. There's a lot of customer contacts, customers being the publishers, and there is accompanying the publisher, looking at the graphics, looking at the rules, doing some promotion, maybe even for the game. And so there are lots of things, and there is the bookkeeping and the finances and the tax returns and all these funny things you have to do as well. And even so, there are specialists who help the business. So it is a much wider range. And what I should say is there is another aspect to the game, which to the business, which I very much enjoy, and that's the international aspect. And that's the width of, no, it's not just designing a game, it is understanding what the different cultures do and expect from a game, but also understanding the whole process of, okay, why do we need 55 cards? Why can't I use 67 cards? It gets more flexible today, but in former times there were these production sizes and production tools. And so understanding the production, also the new productions today, what can be done, and therefore what can we take into the game, keeping the eyes open and always having, so to speak, the next game in the mind when I walk through the world and speak to people. It's a much wider range. And so I think game design is an art, and if you're an artist, you need to be a bit crazy and you need to always think about the things. So this is the biggest part of my life, and this is what I have done for many years and what I enjoy doing for many years. So I once had a very big hobby, which was games, and now the hobby is my profession. So I've lost my big hobby, but it's still great enjoyment and great fun. Not every hour is enjoyable. There's business to run and there's things to do which you have to do, but it's still something I love to do, and I don't want to do anything else. And so apart from this, I read a lot, I do a bit of sports. I'm not a big party person, so Corona doesn't affect me that much, but I want to play test. And I'm a big fan of history, so I look into history books. That helps me in the games again, but that's not because of the games. History, and look into the periods, how people and how things developed, just to get a perspective for today. So it's the little things. I'm fascinated by the technology. I'm looking a lot into technology and how our world changes.
Oh, really?
We have the advantage, but also the disadvantage of having seen many years. And I remember the time when we didn't have internet, when we didn't have mobile phones, when people sent letters with proofs, and then you have to send them back. So it was a different world. And seeing how fast things move and how fast our lives change, I find absolutely fascinating. And I want to live another 200 years just to see what is happening. But so that's thrilling. So there are some aspects, because I was working in IT before, there are some aspects which I find very fascinating. or frightening if you look at the political situation in some countries. But it's a fascinating world. So many exciting things and not enough time to do everything.
What do you think of board games being now available on computers and mobile?
Yeah, I mean, this is another development. It started quite early, but I mean, I remember when I was at university, I wrote a chess program actually, so people could play chess against it. But these were relatively primitive interfaces. Yes, today we have a very immersive world. What do I think of it? A lot of people say there's a competition, and or even the digital games are the death of the board game. I don't believe so, because it's a different way of experiencing a game experience. When I play on my smartphone or on an iPad or on the PC screen, then I'm either playing a puzzle game where I'm playing by myself or I'm playing through the internet. It's a different immersive nature than when I sit around the table and play with people. And so I believe as long as people play, it's always good. We as gamers and as the gaming industry do not compete against each other, digital against physical world, and these will grow together more and more with the hybrid games. We are competing in a way against people who travel, against, well, not against, but with people who travel or go to sports or do sports or read books or watch television. And so it's the competition of the games for the free time and for the free available money of the people. And as long as people are in the vicinity of playing, it's fantastic. So this is the one side. The other side is I have taken great inspiration from electronic games, because when I started developing the first apps, you are suddenly having a very, very different challenge. You look at this small screen and say, I can't communicate rules, and I have only this small screen. And at that time, the smartphones weren't that smart, so I have to have a few numbers here. And so how do I make a game out of it? And these are challenges I love, because as a game designer, I want to be innovative and I want to do something new and not just more of the same. And whenever you go into a new field, into a new atmosphere, into a new challenge, this forces you to do something new. And then, of course, you come back and say, okay, intuitively, you learn a lot about the experience and how can you immediately communicate and transfer this fun, or when you do games for small children. And then you can also use this experience again, introduce new things in the traditional games like family games. So this was a long answer about the digital world, but the digital world is very big. It's 80% of our market if you look from the market share.
Yeah, and I understand what you mean. Instead of battling against digital versions of game, we should take this as an opportunity to learn from it and like make better games from it. And I wanted also to ask you if you are currently working on new projects, maybe?
Yes, of course I'm working on several designs. I mean, it's actually the moment the Corona situation doesn't make it easy, because we can hardly play test. And so I usually in the studio here, I had 50 drawers. And when I have a new idea, and I think there's potential to this idea, and it is not only in my head, but there's materials and it becomes a prototype or just notes at the moment, then I will open a new drawer and put the game in, and it lives in the drawer and needs to be fed. It's very easy to fill drawers because I have the curse of the ideas. I get lots of ideas, but the challenge is to empty the drawers. That means to take the idea and make a perfect game out of it. And that takes a lot of time, a lot of energy and inspiration and discussions and playtesting. And of course, at the moment, we're all a bit stuck. So I have secretly, next to the 50 drawers here, I bought another 40 drawers so that I can fill more things. And I'm not happy about it, because now I have 88 games. I've only got 2 drawers left.
Wow.
88 games which are waiting to be pushed forward, and most of them are waiting for testing. So they have all got a blue flag on the right side which says waiting for testing. And I see lots and lots and lots of blue flags, and I've told all the playtesters, you need to come back soon because there are so many things waiting. So yes, it is. I've never had the shortage of ideas. It is more selecting the right ideas and letting them grow like a child. You know, when you asked me, did I want it asymmetric in Schotten Totten 2? No, I wanted a good game, and then it develops and we see what the potential is. And there, the greatest potential came out of the asymmetry. And so every game is waiting to grow up and to be nurtured and help to develop its full potential. And they're all shouting at me, test me, and I can't at the moment. It's a drama.
I have a last question for you.
Okay.
And it is not really a question, it is more of a here is Royal Visit, which will be released in 2021 with IELLO. And of course you recognize it because you are the designer of it. Do you have a word to say on this upcoming game?
Well, I look very much forward to seeing this game on the market and to receiving my samples, because I've seen the graphics, I've seen the designs, and it's a wonderful graphics, it's a wonderful atmosphere. You know, when you design a game and when we produce a game, it's always a cooperation between the publisher and the designer. And both need to work together. And I think with this one, the graphics and the production give a fantastic atmosphere to play the game. And it's a two-player game again, but it's very, very different to Schotten Totten. That's what I want, a very different game where you have figures on the board and you have cards, but you fight over where you position the figures and they interfere with each other. And there's a mad jester which can upset everything. And you need the guards for the kings. And so it's, for me, it's a fascinating play, and I want to experience, I know the game, of course, but I want to experience in this new setting and just see how it feels there, because the setting adds to the feeling, and hopefully the game will be better than ever.